redpillmafia.com, and today I want to talk about the story that pretty much everyone's talking about, the whole Ahmaud Arbery shooting by the McMichaels that happened down in Georgia about 2 months ago, and I want to give a take on it that I don't think anyone else is even talking about. And I know that pretty much everyone is going to pretty much come against me for the most part for the things I'm about to say pertaining to the case. Some of the things are going to be more factual based, actual, reports that would come out. Obviously everyone's seen a lot of the footage that has come out recently. But then I'm also going to have a section of it that talks about my assumptions, and they'll be my assumptions, my opinions that I think that could be another way of looking at the situation, as well as trying to dispel some of the myths, because I think a lot of people are crying about intentions and motives that they cannot even come close to proving. And I think that also needs to be dealt with as well. Now, everyone, again, knows about how Ahmaud Arbery obviously was jogging through a neighborhood, and obviously father and son team, the McMichaels, saw him running through their neighborhood. I guess they called the 911 police, told them that there is someone in their neighborhood that's running that they suspected was involved in some break-ins and some trespassings, basically some illegal activity in the neighborhood. There was also some theft involved as well, and they were going to pursue them, and they requested that they send a police car down there to assist them, obviously, once they were able to apprehend them. They were obviously going to attempt a citizen's arrest to basically get him to stop, wait for the police to show up. Police could obviously take care of the case from there. Now, as everyone already knows, by the time they actually they get to him, the first attempt to stop him was unsuccessful. He basically dodged away from them to run away from them. They obviously pursued them. They were in a truck, and obviously it's well documented that they did have weapons on them. They had a shotgun, I believe, and at least a handgun. I'm not sure what kind of handgun, a revolver, I don't know. But they had at least a shotgun, and they had a revolver. Some are even suspecting that even the person that was filming the event had a gun as well. I don't know. It's just sounds. There's no video of it. But anyways, they did have weapons with them, which, I'll get into that later. The second attempt to stop them, they were actually able to stop him to a degree. The son did get out. He did have a rifle on his possession, the shotgun, I believe it was. And there was a moment where basically on the video footage, Arbery was actually punching the son and did have a hold of his weapon. Pulling, pushing, pulling, punching him. Okay? Eventually, the shotgun went off. And obviously, I think it was fired at least 2 or 3 times. And then basically Arbery ended up falling to the ground again on the video. Now that we've got all that groundwork down, pretty much everyone already knows about the story. I want to cover some of the facts that lead up to this story, some of the problems that I think people are not realizing about this story, and also bring up some truths that, again, people aren't keeping in mind. Their perspective is, I believe, flawed. First of all, I want to say that this whole case is not just about Ahmaud Arbery and the McMichaels, okay? That people are narrating this out to be as if it's, white versus black, and, making it out to be a racist event, a hate crime, as you will. I think the bigger story in this whole thing is the fact that people, especially people in Georgia, but, obviously I think this is prevalent all over the country for the most part, the public does not trust law enforcement. They don't trust law enforcement to have done their job 2 months ago, gone through all the video evidence that we're all seeing now. People think this is all new evidence. This is all video footage that has already been it's already been watched by the police 2 months ago, okay? This is basically a story about the public not trusting law enforcement, not trusting them to do their jobs unbiasedly and in a manner that doesn't include race, favoritism, who's an ex-cop, who's not an ex-cop, all that sort of stuff. Ultimately what this story's about, what this whole case is about. And At the end of the day, what's going to happen is, I believe that all the evidence is going to be presented like it already has, and the new DA, the new person that's basically running this case right now, is going to come up with the same conclusion that cops did 2 months ago, over maybe a couple weeks of looking over all the evidence. It didn't take a court case, didn't take millions of dollars to try the McMichaels to come to the same conclusion. But as we get into this is what I want to talk about. I want to go over the letter that actually came out from the original DA that did the original investigation, and I want to go over some points that he addresses that I think are pretty interesting. Reference: Glenn County, the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery, February 23rd, 2020. Dear Captain Jump. I'm not sure who Captain Jump is, but let's move on. My office received the Arbery autopsy report dated in April 2020 yesterday, and I reviewed it yesterday and this morning. We were waiting on this important evidentiary article before finalizing our opinions. However, since we were initially requested to handle the case, the victim's mother has clearly expressed she wants myself and my office off the case. She sees a conflict in that my son works in the Brunswick District Attorney's Office, where Greg McMichael retired some time ago. She believes that there are kinships between the parties. There are not, and has made other unfounded allegations of bias. As such, I believe it is better for my office to step out, and I'm going to recuse myself and the assistants working with me from handling the case. I'm contacting the Georgia Attorney General Office and seeking their assistance in finding another district attorney in the state to handle the further evaluation for prosecution in this case. That is, to determine whether there is sufficient evidence on which to make a grand jury presentation or not, given the governor's current shelter-in-place order and Justice Melton's judicial emergency order. I cannot venture a guess as to when they will move on this request. And once another is found, when that district attorney will have the staff available to review this case file. I hope for all involved it will move along as quickly as possible. It goes on to say this: after talking on my phone with you yesterday, I appreciate that there is immediate pressure on your department as to the issue of the arrest. Since I've already given you an initial opinion the day after the shooting, I feel I can still comment on this limited issue. Okay, so it goes on to say, obviously, that there were already cops working on the situation the day after the shooting. It wasn't something they were sitting on. It wasn't something that they, were just hoping to avoid, hoping it would go away. They were working on it. I am the current elected district attorney for the Waycross Circuit. I've worked as a criminal prosecutor for some 36 years. As an assistant district attorney in Waycross and Brunswick, as chief assistant in Waycross for 20 years, and served as the district attorney for the last 5. I've been actively involved in over 100 murder cases and assisted other prosecutors in at least 100 more. I have no idea how many aggravated assault cases involving gunshots and wounds of all types. Plus, I've attended countless schools, classes, and seminars on criminal prosecution and criminal acts and evidence. Myself and one of my senior trial attorneys have reviewed the evidence extensively and concur on all points. Again, they weren't just sitting on it. They collected a ton of information, all of the evidence. They were actually on they were actually there looking at the crime scene, looking at where everything happened, looking where blood was spattered, looking where the damage had happened. Okay, an actual investigation, which 99% of you guys cannot do, okay? But you're ready to seek and convict these guys when you don't have any proof of anything. You have no evidence. You're not even looking at this as an unbiased investigator, okay? That's what I want to get through to you guys. You're not thinking like an investigator, unbiased, looking at the facts, looking at evidence. You're using your emotions to convey what you think should happen, what you think the outcome should be, who should be prosecuted, who should be judged. You're not using facts. I'll go on. As to the case at hand, it is my professional belief the autopsy confirms what we already viewed as shown on the videotapes. They obviously had the videos way long time ago, as we were just now seeing. Like I said, I told you that. With the photographs and from the witness statements taken immediately at the scene. The autopsy reports the initial opinion we gave you on February 24th, 2020. February 24th, 2020, they were working on this back in February. They weren't sitting on their butts, hoping this would go away. At the briefing room in the Glenn County Police Department after reviewing evidence we had at the time. We do not see grounds for an arrest of any of the three parties. Okay? And now they're going to go into why they came to that determination. They didn't say, we don't think they did anything wrong and then made a day of it. They're going to back that up with the law, with what the law says. It appears Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and Brian William were following and pursued burglary suspect with solid first-hand probable cause, which I'll get to that later, in their neighborhood and asking and telling him to stop. It appears their intent was to stop and hold this criminal suspect until law enforcement arrived. Okay, here's the law. Under Georgia law, this is perfectly legal. OCGA 17-4-60, a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is either committed in his presence, which, okay, it wasn't, or within his immediate knowledge. Okay, you tell me what or in his immediate knowledge means. What does that mean? It doesn't mean, obviously doesn't mean committed in his presence. It means something different. But it still also qualifies for a citizen's arrest. What does it mean, though? I'll go on. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Again, they didn't say he's guilty and they chased after him. They suspected him. Probable grounds of suspicion. Reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Okay, let's go on. It clearly appears Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael had firearms being carried in an open fashion. The investigation shows neither of them to be convicted felons or under felony supervision. They were in a motor vehicle owned by Travis McMichael. Under Georgia law, this is legal open carry. Okay? And let's go into the law. Any person who is not prohibited by law from possessing a handgun or a long gun, a rifle, may have or carry on his or her person a weapon or long gun in his or her property or inside his or her home, motor vehicle, or place of business without a valid weapons carry license. Any person who is not prohibited by law from possessing a handgun or long gun may have or carry on his or her person a long gun without a valid weapons carry license, provided that if the long gun is loaded, it shall only be carried in an open and fully exposed manner. Now, my point is with this is simply this. It is legal to open carry in Georgia. It's legal to open carry here in Nevada. Okay? Means you have to have your gun out. Can't be hidden. Can't be under your clothes. Can't be, in your pocket. Can't be in your, glove compartment, whatever. It has to be out, open it, and carrying. Okay? And they, as far as the police were saying, they fully complied with that law. The video made by William Bryan clearly shows the shooting in real time. From said video, it appears Ahmaud Arbery was running along the right side of the McMichael truck, then abruptly turns 90 degrees to the left and attacks Travis McMichael, who was standing in the front left corner of the truck. A brief skirmish ensues in which it appears Arbery strikes McMichael and appears to grab the shotgun and pull it from McMichael. The shot is through Arbery's right hand palm, which is consistent with him grabbing and pulling the shotgun at the barrel tip. The second and third wounds are consistent with the struggle for the shotgun as depicted in the video. The angle of the second shot with the rear of the buttstock being pushed away and down from the fight are also consistent with the upward angle of blood plume showed in the video, and that McMichael was attempting to push the gun away from Arbery while Arbery was pulling it towards himself. The third shot, too, appears to be a struggle over the gun. The angle of the shots in the video show this was from the beginning or almost immediately became a fight over the shotgun. Given the fact Arbery initiated the fight, at the point Arbery grabbed the shotgun, under Georgia law, McMichael was allowed to use deadly force to protect himself. Just as importantly, while we know McMichael had his finger on the trigger, we do not know who caused the firings. Arbery would only have to pull the shotgun approximately 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch to fire the weapon himself, and in the height of an altercation, this is entirely possible. Arbery's mental health records and prior convictions help explain his apparent aggressive nature and his possible thought pattern to attack an armed man. Now we go into the law. OCGA 16-3-21, use of force in defense. Once confronted with a deadly force situation, an individual is allowed to use deadly force to defend themselves or others. OCGA 16-3-23.1, Georgia's no duty to retreat law. An individual is not required to back away or submit to an attack. OCGA 16-3-24b, the use of force which is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm to prevent trespass on or other tortious or intentional or criminal interference with real property other than habitation or personal property is not justified unless the person is using such force reasonably, believes that it is necessary to prevent the commission of a forcible felony. OCGA 16-3-24.2, a person properly and legally defending themselves is immune from prosecution. From the above and foregoing reasons, it is our conclusion there is insufficient probable cause to issue arrest warrants at this time. So, as it stands right now, 2 months ago, there was already an investigation. There was already investigators checking out the crime scene, checking out blood splatter patterns, checking out the video, all the videos we've seen so far, and they came to the conclusion, and then they compared it to what was legal. They compared it to, the laws when it comes to open carry, the laws that it comes to citizens' arrests, the law that comes deals with defending yourself. They added all these things together and determined that they had broken no laws. The McMichaels had not broken any laws in doing anything they did. And when it came to the unfortunate death of Arbery, they were defending themselves against his attack against them. Okay? And that's the conclusion they came up with 2 months ago. The unfortunate thing is this doesn't appease the social justice warriors and the those that are out there that are very anti-cop. They think that there are white supremacists around every corner, that they're just looking to kill black people. They're driving trucks around, shooting black people, jogging in the streets for no reason, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't help the mainstream media, pushes this narrative all the time, and everyone eats it up like they're stinking jackals. I don't know what it is. Now, I believe, in my humble opinion, I am one of the few people that actually have a level head about the situation, okay? I say that because I'm not thinking that it's racist, some kind of racist hate crime action like everyone else thinks it is, without no proof. They have no proof at all. They just think that's what they think because their feelings are revving up and this isn't right and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Yes, it's unfortunate that Ahmaud Arbery died. He did not deserve to die because he was going through under construction homes at night several times. God knows what he was looking for. God knows what he was doing there. But whatever. No, he did not deserve to die for that. Okay? He also did not deserve to die for being black. Okay, I just so irritates me that they push these ideas that black people are just dying because they're black. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. You're just all hate mongering. You're all race baiting. That's all you're doing. You're virtue signaling like there's no tomorrow. But on the flip side, what I am willing to do is I am waiting. I'm perfectly open for new evidence to show on the contrary. Okay. If there's evidence that comes out that, again, there's social media stuff that's out there that shows that they've made racist comments or other videos or other things, that alludes to that, that's actually legitimate, not fake news trying to frame it like that, but actually it's legitimate evidence that may show us some level of intent, some level of what they were thinking at the time, okay? I'm open to that. I'm perfectly open to that. I'm not insisting that's not the case, okay? I'm just saying it can't be the case until it's the case, okay? You can't invent it for it to be the case because you want it to be that way. It just has to be that way, and if it's there, it'll eventually be found, and then we'll know, okay? I'm also not going to be of the camp that insists, like, I've been watching some videos from the Amazing Lucas, which I'm just dumbfounded that he's on this sticking train. I don't know why he is. Okay. Usually I like all the stuff he says. Usually I like all the things that he points out. He usually always seems to have a level head about things. I'm glad he's not going the race direction, which unfortunately most black people are, just because I guess they feel they have to defend the black person no matter what he did, whatever. Okay. But Amazing Lucas happens to think that his whole thing is police conspiracy, police corruption. Someone's covering for someone else because obviously the dad is an ex-cop, an ex-investigator, and so there's connections. There's buddy. Yeah, I got your back, man. Don't worry about it. Stuff like that. And I'm not going down that rabbit hole either, because again, just like the racism is unfounded, which is why it shouldn't be said, the corruption is unfounded and shouldn't be said until there's actual evidence. So what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to go down it's a racist hate crime issue. I'm not going to go down the police conspiracy issue, which I believe is actually the biggest issue in this whole court case, and that's why it's a big uproar. I'm not going down that path, okay? I legitimately believe that the evidence shows, because that's all we can use as evidence, that the son of the McMichael son was defending himself. I've talked to a lot of people on YouTube, leaving comments on various news videos and that sort of thing, because everyone is saying such stupid stuff. Again, everyone is on this whole, they're just, it's white people out in trucks, hillbillies, out on the streets, just, blowing away black people while they're jogging. Okay? Every story is said that, two white men with guns chase down and shoot unarmed black man while he's running, while jogging. That is the most dishonest way to label a video I've ever seen, because it wasn't true. And this is why. It's already been stated that they called the police. They called 911, told them that they were going to pursue him because they had evidence that basically they suspected him that he was involved in some neighborhood crimes, some violations, that sort of thing. And if your intent was to actually go kill them, if you told your son, hey, let's go kill that black guy, it'd be fun. But you're going to call the police before you do it and tell them to meet you there? You really think that's logical? You really think that shows intent, that they had intentions on killing a black guy? Okay? Another thing. Why would you film it if your intentions were to go kill a black guy? Okay? Doesn't make sense. You think, they're just so sick. They wanted to have, proof to, of just killing a black guy. They wanted to videotape it for sick reasons. No. That makes no sense at all. You know what does make sense? They filmed it because anything can happen. Okay? One thing you're a lot of people are maybe looking to realize, as much as all the times that police officers were accused of racially, being, stopping people and, arrests or shootings or whatever, for years, okay? For, being racially motivated, blah, 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 okay? Then eventually a lot of the police departments started instituting body cams. So they can videotape these altercations, okay? And initially, it was about putting the officer giving the officer a level of accountability, saying, hey, this video footage is going to be used against you, so you better make sure not to do anything stupid. Don't say anything stupid. Okay, we're gonna be on you. Okay, now I'm sure cops probably hated that level of micromanagement, knowing that they basically had their boss looking over their shoulder the entire job day. But after a while, what started happening? You had all these fake racist accusations coming in against cops. Someone got pulled over and this cop made a racist comment on me or blah, 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 blah. And I was just driving. I didn't do anything wrong, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then what comes out later? The police department puts out the footage of the body cam. Why? Because that's not what happened. The suspects were lying about what the cops did or said. And what was the only proof? Video. They were filming the altercation that they were possibly going to have with Arbery to protect themselves. Had nothing to do with wanting to film themselves killing a black guy. And just the idea of that is preposterous. You wish that was what the case was, but it's not. A lot of other things I've heard people say is, well, they should have just reported it to the police and let the police handle it. Really? Do you know what I found that was actually a pretty interesting piece of information that I bet you next to nobody in Georgia knows, except probably the cops? Let's look at the law that is required for a citizen's arrest. We've already gone over this before, but I'm going to repeat it again, just to make sure. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. Again, my question to you, everyone out there, what does within his immediate knowledge mean? What does that mean? If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, which Arbery was, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Okay? But let's look at something pretty interesting here real quick. Let's look at what the law says in Georgia about what grounds can a police officer arrest somebody. This is interesting. An arrest for a crime may be made by a law enforcement officer if under a warrant, or without a warrant if the offense is committed in such an officer's presence or within such an officer's immediate knowledge. Do you see that? What do you see? What I'm seeing here? The same requirement for a cop to make an arrest is the same for a civilian to make an arrest. The offense has to be committed in such an officer's presence, just like a civilian, or within such an officer's immediate knowledge, just like a civilian. So those of you out there that are saying they should have just left it to the cops should have handled it. Okay, if you're out there and you think that the McMichaels had no justification for pursuing Arbery, and they should have left it to the cops, the law here states the cops wouldn't have a justification to chase him either. Because what justification is the cop? The cop wasn't there, didn't see him do anything. What immediate knowledge? What, again, we're looking back at what within such an officer's immediate knowledge means. What does immediate knowledge mean? If Michaels didn't have immediate knowledge, whatever that means the cops didn't either. Which means all you out there that are saying the cops should have handled it, the law says they shouldn't have been able to handle it either if the McMichaels weren't allowed to handle it. The same requirements, you even hear what I'm saying? The same requirements for a police officer to conduct an arrest are the same for a civilian. The only difference is a cop has somewhere to take them. They have a police station to take them. They have a jail to hold them in. A citizen doesn't. He has to wait for a cop to take over, and then they do that process after that point. But as far as making an arrest, they both have the same requirements. Other people that I've talked to have said, well, if they were going to go after him, they shouldn't went after him with a gun. And why not? Correct me if I'm wrong here. I may be spitballing here a bit, but the purpose of owning a firearm is to defend yourself and to protect yourself. But if I'm going to be in any situation, I shouldn't have a gun on me because I'm more concerned about the aggressor than I am concerned about my own safety. I should have a gun because I might hurt that guy, even though he's attacking me, but I got to be more concerned about protecting his life, protecting his health more than myself. You're saying that makes sense? You're saying that makes any common sense whatsoever? Listen, if I have a gun, which I have every right to stinking have a gun, just because they brought a gun into the vicinity of Arbery does not give Arbery the right to grab it. It doesn't. Under no circumstances does it mean that he has the legal right to try to grab my gun. Grab the McMichael's gun. There's no right. The moment he grabbed the gun, okay, and this is another thing that just gets on my nerves, okay, he was not unarmed. Newsflash, he was not unarmed. Why do I know that? Because he had a gun in his hand. You can't turn around and say two white people with guns shot an unarmed black man while he was jogging, which is obviously what everyone's saying isn't true. Arbery was shot because he was attempting to grab a gun out of someone else's hand while he was punching them. Ask any person that does any kind of gun training, gun safety training, law enforcement. Ask any cop. The moment you grab someone else's gun, you are no longer considered unarmed. Because guess what? You have a gun in your hand. Plain and simple. The idea that the news tries to perpetuate this idea that he was unarmed is ridiculous. He was armed because he was attempting to take the son's gun away from him. And it also doesn't help that he was punching the son in the head. But the McMichael's son didn't have a right to defend himself because he should be concerned about, hurting Arbery. Guess what? You grab someone's gun, and I'm sorry, this is unpopular, obviously. You grab someone else's gun, you forfeit your life. Plain and simple. Sorry to break it to you, all you social justice warriors out there that think, oh, it's so sad that he's dead. Well, it's sad that he's dead. It's sad that he was stupid enough to try to grab that guy's gun. That's what's stupid. That's what's sad. In fact, what's interesting is, everyone's talking about, well, they shouldn't have guns around him in the first place, for some reason, because they think that it was okay for Arbery to attempt to steal the guy's guns because they brought guns to the event. They brought guns to the situation. Guess what? Open carry is legal. You know what that means? It means I can bring a gun anywhere I want. I can bring a gun in my car. I can bring a gun while I go to the store. I can bring a gun any place I stinking want. Which means if I'm going to pursue somebody to perform a citizen's arrest, there's nothing wrong with me carrying a gun with me. There's nothing wrong. In fact, what's more of a precedent is the citizen's arrest aspect of it. Has nothing to do with them bringing guns. Because guess what? Performing a citizen's arrest isn't a constitutional right. But guess what? Carrying a gun is. Owning a gun is. So you're going to tell me I'm supposed to forfeit my constitutional right to protect myself and protect my person and my property and my loved ones? You're going to tell me that I should forfeit that because I may hurt someone else? No. Another aspect of the story that I've heard people talk about is, they should have just left it to the cops. The cops should have been the ones to go pursue him. They should just call 911, say, we suspect somebody's running through our neighborhood. We suspect he's been a part of some other lascivious activity in our neighborhood, and we think the cops should come out and check it out. And say if they did nothing else, okay? Even though I've already previously stated the cops just as much of authority and you have to have the same kind of requirement to perform an arrest as a citizen does. But let's move past that, okay? Say if they had, the cops show up. Out of the scenario we know, okay? Take out the McMichaels and put in two cops chasing Arbery while he's running. One of the cops gets out. Arbery attacks the cop. Tries to grab his gun from him, starts pounding the cop. The cop shoots him. You'd be saying the same thing as you're saying now. You would say, oh, Arbery's death was unjust, and the cops, cop brutality, and, Rodney King all over again, whatever you want to say, okay? You would say the same thing. It's just because it was the McMichaels that did it, you're saying, oh, they're the reason, they're the fault. But if the cops had done the same thing to what the people you said should have been ones handling it, what's any evidence is to say that he wouldn't have done the same thing with cops? If he was willing to do that with regular citizens. It is so mind-blowing to me that everyone is placing all of the blame for Arbery's death on the McMichaels bringing guns with them when they were going to pursue him for a citizen's arrest. All of the blame's on the McMichaels. But no one is willing to blame Arbery for being willing to attack the son and grab his gun and start punching him. No, why is no one blaming him for that? No one's tossing any blame his direction for what he contributed to the situation. And to be quite honest with you, I'm glad the McMichaels had a gun with them. Because guess what? If they would have gotten out and done that, Arbery could have been beating the son anyways. Again, there's no reason to believe that Arbery wouldn't have reacted the same way with or without a gun being present. But because there was a gun present and the guy who was being attacked was able to defend himself, all of a sudden that person that was being attacked is all of a sudden the villain. Another aspect of this that I think is ridiculous is a lot of people are commenting on this story. I assume some of them are probably in Georgia. They live in Georgia. But a lot of them do not. Okay? Now, one person I was talking to was raised in California. I'm not a big fan of California. I'm glad I don't live there. I think it's probably the most oppressive state when it comes to freedoms, probably in the entire stinking country. And so when this person I was talking to mentioned about, they had no business to jump into a truck and with guns and go chase down Arbery. They had no reason. You don't do that. You can't do that and still claim self-defense. Okay, I've been told that several times. That's everyone's little spiel to say. Like they think they know it all. Okay, and you people in Georgia, you tell me, is guns a pretty prevalent thing to have in Georgia? I have to assume it is. Okay, someone in California, for instance, doesn't walk around and people have sidearms or people have holding rifles and whatever. That's not a thing there. When both the McMichaels and Arbery, they were raised in the same environment around guns. The idea that, guns were like this big thing that, there was, Arbery was shocked that, they had a gun with them. Okay? So this idea that, them bringing guns is this foreign thought that, just shocked Arbery into being feared for his life. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Okay? I also happen to believe that the entire time they're trying to get him to stop, because there's no evidence that's come out that has been contrary to this, both the times, just because they had guns on their persons, doesn't mean they were thinking, hey, you better stop, man. You better stop. Actively pointing their guns at him in an aggressive way. There's no proof of that. Because I bet you Arbery didn't even know that, the father even had a gun on him. Okay? Because open carry means you have to have it in your holster, and your holster has to be exposed so everyone can see it. Okay? When it comes to a rifle, you have to either have it around your shoulder or you have to have it two hands holding your rifle, like this. Okay? You can't be pointing at people, just because you think you want to point at people. Okay? That's different. But to have your gun like this, perfectly legal, perfectly non-threatening. And in fact, it actually supports the idea that because he wasn't actively pointing his rifle at Arbery at the time, but was holding it this way, sideways, across his chest, it actually encourages the idea that Arbery thought he could disarm him because he wasn't actively pointing the gun at him. Okay, so he wasn't threatening him. He got out of the car because guess what? The law says you can come out and you can try to stop the person. Now, was obviously the whole purpose of having a gun with them was to hopefully get Arbery to chill out and stop and cooperate? That would be my guess. Without a gun and trying to just stop them. Another thing someone said is, well, why didn't they just use brute strength and just tackle him or wrestle him to the ground and whatever, tie his hands together, I don't know, whatever. Basically, not use a gun. And I'm like, are you guys morons or something? If they would have handled Arbery in any way whatsoever, where they were the ones approaching him and they were the ones grabbing him and trying to wrestle him to the ground, that's assault right then and there. You think they wanted to assault him? And, that something come out of that. Now they're getting sued because their family, Arbery will be suing them and their family would be suing them for assaulting their son. You think they wanted that? No. Their intention, I bet, again, assumption, I'm presuming their intention was to not have to even sting and touch him. They don't want to touch him. They don't want to deal with him. They don't want to manhandle him. They just wanted him to stop. Wait for the cops to show up. Okay? And the idea that, they're just punked out and thought they had to use a weapon. Well, guess what? Yeah, you know what? Firearms are the equalizer. Yes. Okay? Oh, there's three of them and only one guy they're just trying to stop. Three of them could, because guess what? Yeah, so all three of them could be sued for assault and battery. Give me a stinking break. Are you morons or something? And then there's the most outlandish claim whatsoever that people are throwing out there, which is so ridiculous. When you're watching the video of the whole altercation, obviously it's from behind, from where everyone else is. And there's been some accusations that, Why is it that, the video is sometimes on them and then it kind of goes to the side and, then comes back, and then, the camera guy allows the two to fall outside of the frame and then fall back into the frame and all that sort of stuff. And the first thing they thought of, and I thought this was so preposterous, that, the camera guy was purposely leaving out, trying to avoid videoing anything incriminating, like as if, maybe if they were able to, which is so preposterous that, if there's anything that happened there that, the guy knew in advance that he should move the camera away so that not to capture it on film so it can't be used against him in a court of law when, they finished killing him because, that was their whole intent in the first place was to kill him, but they tried to maneuver the camera so that, they didn't catch anything incriminating in there so we can go with the self-defense story. The whole idea that they coordinated this beforehand, to say, hey, by the way, when I start attacking them, or if I start hitting them with the butt of my rifle or anything like that, or when I start shooting them, blah, 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 make sure not to get that stuff on the video, okay? I'm just letting you know in advance. Just the entire idea of that is so asinine. First of all, okay, the guy is driving a vehicle. He's holding, I have to presume, he's holding the video camera with his hand, okay? And then trying to steer a car at the same time, okay? And then we can even also include the possibility that it's been mentioned before that he may have even been, once he saw the altercation and, and Arbery and the son were going at it, fighting over the rifle, that he himself had a firearm on him. And that he was, maybe cocking it or whatever. I don't know what he was doing, but that some people claim that there was some noise in the footage that insinuated that even the guy filming had a firearm. Okay, so we'll go with that. We'll go with that. He was driving a vehicle, trying to hold a camera and handle some sort of firearm at the same time, and you think the shot is going to be like movie quality. How stupid is that? It only makes sense that it's just, you're trying to follow the action, you're trying to, steer, make sure you don't hit people because you're trying to watch the camera and you're trying to watch the road at the same time. It's perfectly understandable why the video looks the way it looks. So the whole idea of, he's trying to purposely move certain things out of the camera's view so it can't be used as incriminating evidence is preposterous. Another aspect of this that I'm sure the mainstream media and even politicians, as they talk about this, blah, 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 are going to talk about is obviously the Second Amendment. And if this whole reason this even happened is because we have such loose gun laws in our state and we need to crack down on who's allowed to have guns and what you're allowed to do with them and blah, 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 blah. And I want to tell you this is preposterous. The reason I know that is because you look at what happened in Virginia when, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 people, literally tons of people gathered for one protest to protest what the laws that Virginia was trying to pull, obviously about 6-8 months ago before this whole Corona thing opened up. And there were so many guns there. So many guns. Not one instance of violence. Not one instance of a shooting. Nothing. So obviously guns aren't the problem. It's the people trying to use the guns. Okay? Or those trying to steal guns. Okay? Okay, now, and so this whole idea that this is going to be used as a ploy to, we need to roll back, any kind of legislation, any kind of, looseness of our Second Amendment rights, and, we need to buckle down and, make sure this never happens again. No, it's not, because this happened for one reason and one reason only. Arbery shouldn't have charged the son and grabbed his gun and started wailing on him. That's the reason. That's the only reason Arbery's dead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break this all to you, but that's the only reason he's dead. And it has nothing to do with him being black, or it has nothing to do with any kind of suspicion of any kind of theft or any other kind of lascivious activity he was doing in the neighborhood for the last few weeks. It's purely because of that one incident. If he hadn't done that, he'd still be alive today. Now, one thing I do think people need to not do is conflate the law and what you're allowed to do via the law and what you would do. Meaning, I've heard a lot of people say that, they shouldn't have gone after Arbery. No, you wouldn't have gone after Arbery. You wouldn't have made that choice if it were you. But that doesn't mean what's legal and what's not legal. It doesn't indicate what the law says is or isn't allowed to do just because you wouldn't do it. Just because you wouldn't have grabbed a few guns for your own safety and gone after to attempt a citizen's arrest because you saw someone that you've seen video footage of doing lascivious activity in your neighborhood over the last few weeks, just because you wouldn't have made that call to do that doesn't mean no one else should have done it either. Okay? Don't conflate the two. Don't conflate what you would have done and what you would prefer other people do and what the law actually says you're allowed to do. One thing that I think, obviously, this entire case, when it goes to trial, because I'm sure it will, when it goes to trial, because the reason why it's going to go to trial, even if they don't have enough evidence, the government, the Georgia government, the DA's office, law enforcement in general, needs to show the public that they're doing something. They're not just sitting on their butts and saying, well, we'll just let this, let's just, wait till people will forget about this and we can kind of just go on about our business. They have to show that they're not doing that. That's why the McMichaels were arrested, and that's why they're in jail right now. Okay? It's not because they've been deemed guilty. It's not even because the police or the DA's office believes that they're guilty. It's simply to appease you. How do I know this? Let's look at a case that's interestingly similar to this. George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. When that whole situation happened, okay, the police investigated it down in Florida. I believe it was in Florida. Don't hold me to that. I believe it was in Florida, though. And after that situation happened, the police they investigated, they took all the evidence, and they found that it was self-defense. George Zimmerman wasn't breaking any laws by carrying. He had a concealed carry, okay? And he wasn't breaking any laws by following a guy, okay? All these things were weighed against what the law allows you to do, okay? Now, but guess what? The public wasn't happy about that. Obama wasn't happy about that. Trayvon could have been my son, okay? He wasn't happy about it either, okay? I wouldn't doubt that the whole reason why Zimmerman had to seek and go to trial over Trayvon Martin was because of Obama. So what happened? Zimmerman went to jail. He was finally arrested after a big uproar from the public saying, how could you let Zimmerman go? How could you not have him arrested and convict him? And, Trayvon Martin's dead and he shouldn't be. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So the state of Florida, again, whatever state it was, went through the entire process, went through court cases, hiring attorneys, bringing witnesses, spent millions of dollars in taxpayer money to try George Zimmerman just to find and come to the same conclusion that they did when the incident first happened. When the local police did their investigation and came to that same conclusion. And know what's interesting too? Even after Zimmerman was acquitted and he was found not guilty, people still were, oh, no, that's not right, okay? They couldn't trust the system. They couldn't trust the court system. Couldn't trust law enforcement. They couldn't do it, okay? That's the same thing that's going to happen here, okay? The entire process is going to go through the entire, Georgia legal system. There'll be a court case, and at the end of the day, again, I could be wrong. Something could come through, and I'm totally open to that. But as it stands right now, with the information that they have right now, I wonder if they're going to come to the same conclusion that the local cops did back in Georgia, the I think it was Brunswick area, wherever that area. Those cops came to the same conclusion that they did. The prosecutor and the entire investigation and the whole court case is going to come to that. It's going to come to the same conclusion. All because they insisted on arresting the McMichaels simply because of public outrage. Because they insisted the cops aren't doing their job. Because you weren't there to watch them investigate. Because you weren't there while they were going through the crime scene. You weren't there while they were watching investigative footage that everyone sees now. You weren't there because you didn't witness it. It didn't happen, huh? There's already documentation here that back in February, they were already on the case. They had already gone through all the footage. They gone through pictures. They went through the crime scene. They watched blood spatter. They interviewed witnesses. All the stuff you're supposed to do in an investigation. You didn't do that. But because it didn't have the outcome that you wanted, you think it didn't happen correctly. And that's ridiculous. It's bad enough that the media and, leftist governors and leftist mayors in New York, for instance, make it their job to make cops look bad. And you're falling for it. And listen, I don't have my head in the sand. I know that sometimes cops do bad things. Everyone does bad things. Okay? It's just because our media makes it a point to make us distrust our law enforcement so much. They billboard every incident that happens with a cop that is either corrupt or they just made a bad call and someone got hurt and they made the wrong decision. That stuff happens, and you know what? They're dealt with. Every time they're dealt with. But I refuse to believe that every cop is bad. I refuse to drink the ACAB juice, okay? Those of you who don't know what that is, that's all cops are bastards. No, I'm not buying it, okay? For every one cop that gets billboarded on mainstream media that is made to look like some power-hungry, lunatic racist, there are at least 1,000 that are good cops that do their job correctly and they make proper judgments and they treat everyone fairly. And just like it's stinking racist to think all white people act certain ways or all black people act certain ways or all Hispanics or all Asians, whatever we want to plug in there, all act a certain way because that's who they are, I think it's equally as prejudiced to make the same claim on cops. Another misconception about obviously the fact that they had firearms on them is that everyone keeps on saying, well, how will you expect when you brandish your weapon that, it's not taken as being a threat to Arbery? One reason, because it's open carry. Open carry, I'm sure most of you know this. I don't have to say this, but most of you know this. Open carry means you can't have it concealed. It has to be out in the open so everyone can see it, okay? And that means, obviously, if you have a firearm on your hip, you can't have it covered by your shirt. You can't have it tucked in your pocket. It has to be out in the open. It can't be in any way covered. It basically has to be there. Everyone has to see it, okay? Your rifle. You have a rifle on you, whether it's a single action, bolt action, or whether it's a shotgun, whatever you're doing, okay? You have to either have it in your hand, against your chest, like, you carry anything else, or maybe around your shoulder with some kind of strap, okay? When it comes to a handgun, when you're brandishing that handgun, even if you're open carry, it's not brandishing until you take it out of the holster. It being in the holster is not brandishing, even though people can see it. To brandish a rifle, you have to point it at a person. That is brandishing a rifle, okay? When you hold it this way, and it's across your chest, and you're holding it, basically pointing it up in the air, that sort of thing. That's not brandishing when it comes to open carry. So no court should accuse the McMichaels for brandishing their firearms. Obviously, the original DA, was said they were in total compliance with open carry laws. So to say that that's the reason why, Arbery thought he had to, react violently towards them because he was being threatened. No, not buying it. Not buying it. Sorry. What I would buy, though, is the fact that obviously footage has come out now where, he's obviously been at various houses several times, a lot of times at night, okay? Again, and on top of that, too, there's even been a sighting of a firearm being stolen. I think it was actually from the McMichaels. Someone broke into their car and stole a firearm out of their car. I believe that's what the situation was. I could be wrong, but I do know that a firearm was stolen from someone in the neighborhood. I think it was the McMichaels. Okay? So the idea that if they're going to chase somebody who has footage of them scoping out various other houses in the neighborhood, yes, they were under construction. And by the way, the idea that a house under construction isn't private property is stupid. Okay? You have just as much right to walk onto a construction site of a house being built as you do walking up to the front door of someone's house and walking in. Okay? You have just as much right on both scenarios. You don't have more right because of a construction job. Guess what? There's signs everywhere. I bet you there's signs everywhere in that construction area saying no trespassing. Construction job, construction site, no trespassing. Authorized people only. Stuff like that, okay? I used to work in construction. I saw those signs all the time, okay? I used to work around pre-built houses, houses still in the middle of being constructed, and those signs were everywhere, okay? So I have to think those same signs would be in Georgia too, okay? So the idea that a house under construction doesn't mean that you're not trespassing when you're walking on that job site. When you shouldn't be, you're not part of the construction team that's building that house, okay? You had no business being there. And then on top of that, to be there at night, again, doesn't make them look pretty good, huh? So having that footage there, it's just obviously the fact that he was doing that sort of stuff. He shouldn't have been there, period. Okay? And on top of that too, in that same house, I believe that I read that some guy said that guys were storing private materials and private property in those houses as well. And it was like $1,200 worth of fishing equipment or something like that. I don't know. That was stolen as well. So theft actually did happen, okay? And with Arbery being on the footage several times, putting two to two together, it's not that difficult. Anyways, like I was saying, what I would go along to possibly think is that if you're going to pursue this person after they know they've done things that, in the area that are, a little shady, under the table, lascivious, whatever you want to call it, okay? And then all of a sudden someone in the neighborhood stops you, say, hey, we want to talk to you. When you've known you've done that stuff already, and now someone wants to pull you, kind of stop you and talk to you about that and, deal with it somehow, okay? That actually would encourage the possibility in my mind that he knows that they obviously were trying to stop him, and I have to assume, again, I'm assuming here that they told him, hey, just so you know, the cops are on their way. We called the cops. We just need you to stop here, and you need to talk to the cops, and we need to determine whether or not they need to take you. The cops are coming, okay? Upon hearing that, he's like, crap, I don't want the cops doing anything. I don't want the cops involved. I don't want I better get out of here. I don't want the cops, because, again, he's trained by the media that all cops are racist, so, if the cops are involved, he's sunk. He's sunk for sure, They might as well take him in the back and pull a bullet in his head because, he's sunk if the cops get involved, okay? So that would actually make sense that he would try to use violence and force to get away, okay? Now, I don't believe that he was trying to grab the gun in hopes to use it on the son, but maybe just to disarm him. I can go with that. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it legal. Doesn't still not make it assault with a deadly weapon, because you're basically, once you have your hand on that gun, you're not unarmed anymore. Because, the idea that, the media puts it out that, the McMichaels were out there just driving along and they came up on Arbery, and as he was jogging, checking his pulse, and, jogging away, and then all of a sudden he just gets, a shotgun blast in his back. That's the way the media makes it out like that's what happened. And it's still not true. Now, the whole thing of this case is predicated on, I think the main thing it's predicated on is Was the citizen's arrest justified? That's what I think it's all going to start. Because if that isn't if that's not deemed justifiable, then that pretty much, everything else is kind of like just falls away. Okay, because that means they didn't have a legitimate reason to follow him, and the altercation could have been avoided. It was basically makes it the McMichael's fault. They made a wrong judgment on whether or not they were going to try to perform a citizen's arrest. They didn't have the proper evidence to do that. They didn't have the proper reasoning to come to that conclusion. Okay, and it all goes back to a certain term that is in the Georgia law, which I've already mentioned this before. Immediate knowledge. What does it mean? We already know that they weren't there when any kind of crime actually happened. They weren't in the presence of that crime happening. They weren't actual visual witnesses of the actual crime being taken place. They weren't witnesses to it. But what does within his or her immediate knowledge mean? I'm wondering, which cops would know this, lawyers would know this, regular people wouldn't know this. I'm just hampering a guess, throwing this out there. I kind of wonder if maybe there's already legal precedence in Georgia that states that when you've seen surveillance footage of someone who believes is actually doing an legal act, committing a crime, and you've seen surveillance of that person doing the crime, you now have immediate knowledge of that person committing a crime. You weren't there physically, but that's the wonder of video. You don't have to be there to see it. Now, everyone's glossing over this term like it doesn't mean anything, when I bet you the entire case of this whole thing is based off that one phrase. And what its meaning really is. What does that allow, in addition to being there in person watching the crime? That must mean that other situations where you're privy to the crime, you're privy to the situation, without actually having to be there in person, because that's what the first thing says. If the first and the second thing, going back over here, I'm looking at my notes here, if the offense is committed in his presence and or within his immediate knowledge, if they were the same thing, why would they say within his immediate knowledge? They would just said if the offender of the offense is committed in his presence. Period. Doesn't say that though. It says the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. Obviously, there's something different. They're two different things. And they're two different qualifications that if one of these is met, a citizen's arrest can happen. Again, if this precedent is already set in Georgia law, again, I don't know if it is, but maybe it is. Obviously, that's something cops and lawyers would know, probably pretty offhand. But that's something that a normal commenter on YouTube wouldn't know. So if that being the case, I kind of wondered, again, this whole case is basically determined by the legitimacy of the citizen's arrest. Because the legitimacy of the citizen's arrest either validates why the confrontation happened or not. Okay, now, because if they were there and they weren't legally supposed to be there confronting Arbery, then obviously what happened was their fault. But if they legally were able to be there because immediate knowledge means that watching a surveillance tape of a crime that they believe this person saw, then they saw that same person running in front of their house, booking it, which is what actually they told 911. They weren't jogging, checking their pulse, booking it means like you were running from something. And then it comes out later that day, someone approached the house that the guy was taking a tour of, and the guy singing ran off. So the idea that this guy was jogging is ridiculous. It's not even true, okay? But whatever, okay? That's what this whole case is going to be based on, was the citizen's arrest founded under lawful terms? And was it based on enough evidence that they can say, yep, know what? That's justifiable. We would have done that too. Because the open carry thing, that's a done deal. That's a done deal. It's they fully complied open carry. It's also an American right. Okay, Second Amendment Some of you that aren't privy to this sort of stuff, okay? So that's a done deal. That's not even an additional thing. That's a totally separate deal, okay? There's more worry about the citizen's arrest being valid than their ability to carry firearms is valid. That's already a given. That's not even in question. They were perfectly within their rights to open carry. No, regardless what they were doing. Doesn't matter. One thing that I'm also hearing on the internet is the idea that you can't bring a gun to a situation and then turn around and claim self-defense. Yeah, you can. If that weren't the case, that would mean that all concealed carry would all be illegitimate, because you're not allowed to bring a weapon into any kind of situation, and then when you have to pull out and use it in self-defense, you can't say, well, you're the one that brought the gun, so you can't claim self-defense. That doesn't make any sense at all. Women and elderly people do it all the time. They have a gun with them for protection when they're walking on the streets at night, or they're wherever they are. But what, a man can't bring a gun in what they're doing, and all of a sudden they're guilty for someone else trying to take their gun? They're the one at fault? What I want to know is this. There's a new investigator looking at all the evidence. They're in custody right now. They're probably going to go to trial, right? When after all this showboating and, going through the motions, all that happens, and they're still acquitted, not guilty, is it even going to matter? Is everyone else going to basically be programmed to think, see, that's why the justice system is corrupt. These guys shouldn't have been let go. Okay, evidence and the law and all that doesn't matter, huh? Just what you want matters, right? Is that what you're saying? One of the things everyone needs to remember is all this video footage that's getting leaked out, one after another. We may have more coming out. I don't know. The cops had all this 2 months ago. It's not being leaked to them. It's being leaked to us. The cops already had this stuff. The investigators already saw all this footage. And what's interesting, as I think as more and more gets revealed, it's interesting that more and more Arbery's story kind of starts falling apart. His whole jogging narrative already fell apart. He wasn't jogging through the neighborhood. He was booking it. There's already various security camera footage going throughout the neighborhood of him walking into people's houses, people's garages, stuff like that. What was he doing walking into people's houses? Whether under construction or already finished built. What is that? Why was he doing that? And I'm not saying he should have been killed for that, but the idea that you're making him out to be this angelic figure is ridiculous. Collecting all the facts makes it very apparent that there was no intent to kill. There's no intent to go out driving around with your shotgun, seeing if you can find black people to shoot. We already know that wasn't the case. How do we know that? First, why would you bring a camera if you were going to commit premeditated murder? Also, why would you call the cops and tell them to meet you there if you're going to commit premeditated murder? Why did it take until the second stop for him to get out of the truck for Arbery to get shot? If their intention was to shoot him, you could have just drove up to him for the very first time, shot him without even having to get out of the truck. Why would you have to get out of your truck? First of all, what we have to obviously understand is that the SJW lynch mob that's out there that basically wants white blood to spill for this unforgivable crime of a black person dying, okay? They don't care about facts. They don't care about the law. They don't care about what's legal and what's not legal. They don't care about what Arbery did. It still boggles my mind. No one's bringing up he stinking grabbed the guy's gun. He stinking was pounding him. It's in the video. He's stinking pounding the guy's head. But the son wasn't supposed to defend himself. Why? Because he was black? I can't defend myself. I feel like my life's being threatened right now. But I won't shoot you because people will think I'm racist if I shoot you. These SJW lynch mob types aren't investigators. They're not collecting facts. They weren't out there on the crime scene. They're not looking at autopsy reports. They're just jumping to this conclusion because it makes them feel morally superior. Me, on the other hand, I'm looking at the evidence. Okay? Now, like I said, the biggest thing that's going to make this whole thing fly or not fly is what's deemed legal or illegal about the citizen's arrest attempt? Did they have justification? Again, it all boils down to what this immediate knowledge means. Because it obviously doesn't mean having to witness it right then and there, because then why would you're saying the same thing twice? It obviously means something else. What is it? What is that something else? And like I said before, the public, for the most part, is running on ACAB fuel. Okay? And basically, unless there's a conviction that puts these two in prison, they will always feel like justice was never served. Okay? And I don't know what to tell you about that. Okay? I think it really sucks that the narrative out there right now is that cops and law enforcement can't be trusted by the normal everyday person. I personally don't believe that. I personally believe that when somebody signs up to do a job where, everyone else gets to run away from the danger, but this guy has to run towards the danger, they don't get paid a whole lot to do that job. But you know what? They should get some of our respect. They really should. And it shouldn't be they have to earn our respect. Okay? They should have to disearn our respect. Okay? It should be assumed, and I mean, this is common sense, but it should be assumed that unless a cop actually does do things illegal, or even a cop is a jerk, or whatever, you don't assume every cop is a jerk and every cop is a bastard, whatever the saying is, until they prove otherwise. It should be the other way around. You should assume that every cop is honest, trustworthy, will treat you fairly in every given situation, until they don't. Okay? That's my opinion. Okay? And again, cops put their lives on the line every day to protect you. And the last thing you should be doing out there, it should be, dumping water on them, being disrespectful to them, and being out there encouraging other people to do the same thing. It's ridiculous. All you're going to do is create chaos and anarchy. Let me ask you a question. What's going to happen when the day comes where nobody wants to volunteer to be a cop? So because all the bad cops get billboarded on the news, but no one ever hears about all the good things that cops do, which I think is ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't be able to billboard all the bad things that cops do unless your same newspaper, your same news station is also constantly talking about all the good things cops do. All you do is bring up the bad. So what does everyone think? Same thing that happens to Trump. Liberals are stupid because they let TV think for them, okay? And they turn around and say, what has Trump done for America? They couldn't tell you, because you know what? If they're depending on CNN and MSNBC to tell them what Trump's doing, and they can't say anything good, it's all bad, they're going to think Trump doesn't do anything good. All he does is bad stuff. When that's not even the case, but you wouldn't know because you don't do your own investigation. Same thing with cops. Cops are doing way much more good than all the few bad ones that are out there. And if you're going to look at all the billboarded cops that are, screwing up, or they're just, rotten, I know it happens every once in a while, but that shouldn't be your go-to assumption for every cop. And it's just as bad as being racist. It really is. So if you're out there and you're some social justice warrior for, preventing, being against racism, you should also feel that way about cops. And guess what? Cops do a whole lot more good than any race does. Because cops are every race. But their whole job is to do right for the people, is to do good for the community. Help keep the community safe. But when those same cops try to come over and help you in your community, and you stick and spit at them, you show disrespect to them, you call them names, you throw things at them, you dump water on them, whatever the situation is, but you're going to turn around and say, well, they should still help me even if I'm being rude to them. Good luck. Hey, cops are people too, you know what? And if you're going to claim that your actions shouldn't negate their obligation to help you in your moment of need, whatever. Take your chance. Roll the dice and see who wins. Again, I know I've put out a decent amount of information on there. I don't even think I put out everything that I had, I think. I'm going to see if I can collect some more information on this case that I think is information, good information to know. But don't fall for the narrative that they're trying to shove down your throat about this thing. Okay, some of you want that narrative. Okay, and that's you're unfortunate. There's nothing that can be done for you. Okay, you're a lost cause as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but some of you are normally open-minded people, and because this narrative is being shoved on your face, you're just taking it. You're just, well, maybe that's the way it is. Maybe, dude, think. Please take some time and think. Okay? Even stinking Ben Shapiro is missing the boat on this too. I'm kind of wondering what's up with that. Normally his legal commentary on issues are pretty spot on, but him being a lawyer, you'd think he would know. But even he glossed over immediate knowledge. Interesting. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll find out. But like I said, obviously you're free to leave a comment. You think I'm totally off my rocker on this thing, or do you think I made up some legitimate points that no one else is really talking about? Possibly, but we'll see. Again, this is Pill Mafia, and I'll be coming out with and I keep on saying it, but because I got other stuff going on, but I am coming out with music pretty soon, so that I'll be making available free on my website, redpillmafia.com. So again, you guys stay good out there, and talk to you later.